I just can't see it not happening. I just don't see us hovering at 80, 90, 100. I think we'll see a very violent move to the upside, and then suddenly retail is going to be interested because now it's FOMO season, and retail seems to only really understand FOMO.
What is your take in and around the IMF's influence in regards to a seeming lack of countries following suit with El Salvador over that period of time? Do you think that in the background there was pressure there for anybody that was looking at that? Because it seemed like there was interest out the gate, and then it's very clear, like and who knows whether Bukele's been pretty vocal about how they're going to continue to stack sats, but like I guess we will see how that plays out over the course of the year. But do you think that they were in the background the whole time saying, hey, like I think 94 countries have loans with the IMF? Were they basically firing a warning shot to all of them?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And we do see that. Like, we were engaged with the Central Bank of Suriname, and our proposal was just a very conservative 1% allocation. And we talked to them for months. We went there to meet with them in person. And then a week later, the World Bank went to visit, and then they just stopped talking. So you do see covert pressure being exerted. I'm not sure if you remember, but shortly after El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, Honduras, the central bank, kind of randomly put out a notice saying, yeah, we're never going to do anything like that. And we had heard some rumblings that there were some people visiting at that time to exert pressure too. So there's a lot of this covert operations going on to suppress Bitcoin adoption in these countries that do have loans, and these organizations that exist to provide the loans engage with. So, if your job is to loan out money and keep countries in debt, then I think your incentive is to prevent them from ever getting out of debt. So the answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the Confessions of an Economic Hitman playbook, right? Like the anybody who hasn't read it, effectively they send people in, offer that countries that have resources these loans that they don't expect them to be able to pay back, and as soon as they start to struggle to make payments, they'll say, well, we can just take some of your resources instead, and then they'll re-sign a new loan, but there'll be all these conditions of like, okay, you're only allowed to build infrastructure that allows us to extract your resources, and it just continues to snowball. And if you deny the loan or you say you don't want it, then oftentimes you're on the other end of a bullet. And so it's not, like they masquerade as these people that are trying to go around and help these countries out of tough spots. But when you look at the track record, it's horrendous. Like either they are the worst at what they do, or they're intentionally ruining all of these countries. And, if you read Gladstein's book, Hidden Repression, you will be screaming at the pages, listening to some of the garbage that they've done in some of these shit deals. But
Bitcoin advocate Samson Mow has set the scene for a thrilling forecast, envisioning the extraordinary possibility of Bitcoin hitting an impressive $1 million in value sooner than anyone expected. This prediction isn't just a shot in the dark. Mow backs it with a unique perspective, indicating that increased government backing, spearheaded by figures like US President Donald Trump, could catapult Bitcoin to new heights. Let's delve deeper into his insights. Welcome back to Investocracy Crypto.
Yeah, but if you think about what can happen in the future, let's say the IMF does realize that Bitcoin is not going away, then their incentive would be to structure future agreements that they not only extract natural resources, but extract Bitcoin. So they can stipulate that if you mine Bitcoin, all Bitcoin goes to them. And unless you default, then you kind of have to play along with that game. So it's almost like you have to default at this point before things escalate further, and you're really locking everyone up in that country forever into debt slavery. So I could see like a lot of countries just saying, yeah, we default, like what you gonna do? And then just reboot on a Bitcoin standard, because if they think far enough ahead, that is where it's going to go. You're gonna have volcano mining to pay the IMF instead of that money going to the people. So it's almost like the ethical thing to do is to default at this point before things go on to a sound money standard.
Yeah. I want to get takes from Harry and Hodl here. So, gentlemen, do you want to tag on to this?
Well, the funniest thing is, wasn't the IMF telling America recently, like, not to buy Bitcoin because it might destabilize our economy? And it's like, hey, I don't remember fucking asking you. Shut the fuck up. Why do you think you get to speak to me? What the fuck? It's like,
so there's the ECB and was the ECB and like they were complaining, yeah, it's going to destabilize our economic sovereignty or whatever. Right. And now they're fast tracking their CBDC because govern me harder, daddy, right? Like that's their stance.
Yeah, it's
I try to lean on.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, the economic hitman thing is totally accurate, and Bitcoin breaks the yoke that we have over some of these countries, or some of these international funds have over some of these countries, and they don't want that. They don't want people to leave the plantation, and if one person stands up and says I am Spartacus, then everybody stands up and says I am Spartacus, and then it's over.
Samson Mow's foresight on Bitcoin's trajectory towards $1 million is not just wishful thinking. It's grounded in the shifting tides of governmental support worldwide. The domino effect triggered by Trump's favorable stance on crypto is resonating across the financial landscape, paving the way for unprecedented institutional investments in Bitcoin. As the rise of spot Bitcoin ETFs gains momentum, a larger investor pool is diving into the crypto sphere, fueling Bitcoin's ascent to unprecedented levels.
In order to earn Bitcoin in the future, you will have to produce a higher value goods, service, or labor hour in order to earn those sats. And so that is going to fundamentally raise the quality of life on the planet.
I'm curious. I want to ask everybody here. Do we see Bitcoin being more widely used just in that capacity, like individuals incentivizing and then demanding to be paid in Bitcoin as an actual peer-to-peer currency in say the coming decade or so? Is that going to become more common? Like I ask because I'm the crazy person living on Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And so what I've kind of gone through in my path is, you're living on fiat, you're taking whatever is above and beyond your bills each month, and then you're stacking that away. And then, I started accepting Bitcoin, but like, who's going to pay me in Bitcoin? And then I started incentivizing people to pay me in Bitcoin. And I started getting some people paying me in Bitcoin. And now my default is to say, I want to be paid in Bitcoin. And if I'm not paid in Bitcoin, then I charge a premium. And so I've taken this path of like further and further disincentivizing people from paying me in fiat because I don't want it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the fiat premium best communicates the dissatisfaction I have with accepting fiat. It says to the person paying, like, here's the price. I'm assuming you're paying me in Bitcoin. And then when they say, well, I can't pay you in Bitcoin, I say, oh, well, here's I just use Zaprite. So you just tag it on. And so when they go through the checkout, it's like, oh, there's a 15 or 20% premium on that if you're paying through this method. And I think mentally people, they will act, they're more likely to act to save themselves from losing something they feel like they already had, instead of acting in order to gain something they never had in the first place. So when they have an anchor price and then they're like, oh, fuck that, that's 20% extra to pay in, I better like at least next time figure out how to pay in Bitcoin so I don't have to get screwed here. I think this is where we might see it going, where people gradually, the ones that want Bitcoin incentivize it or have mechanisms where it auto converts for them. I don't know. Where are you guys at with this?
I once offered a friend, he was working for me for the day and his day rate was $300 and Bitcoin was around $315 or something. So I was like, hey man, I will just pay you one Bitcoin for today. one Bitcoin for 1 day's work. This was 2015. And he was like, nah, maybe if you gave me like 30% more, I would do it. I was like, no, this is the deal. 15%. I'm already giving you 15% more or whatever. So, or like 7% more. So like, you got to take it. Anyway, he didn't want it. He brings it up all the time. Every time we talk to him, he's like, dude, you should have taken that Bitcoin. So, maybe that those stories will start getting out there and people will start to think like, hey, this is a good thing to do. And I would like to be paid in Bitcoin, or have the auto convert feature. I think the more likely course we'll see over the next, like, let's say 10 or 15, 20 years is people living in a sort of a dual currency world, right? Where, people are spending in fiat and saving in Bitcoin, which is the way that most of us in Bitcoin operate. When we go out for dinner as Bitcoiners, we usually pay with our credit card because it's better to pay with ship money and keep the good money for yourself than it is to try and, be a cringy Roger Ver guy where you go around and convince every, Chinese food shop owner to fucking let you pay in Bitcoin, right? It's better to just be like, hey, you want fiat? Here's fiat, And then if people start demanding Bitcoin, you'd be like, oh, you want Bitcoin? All right, yeah, I can give you a little Bitcoin, whatever,
However, amid this wave of optimism, some analysts remain cautious, pointing to the volatile nature of Bitcoin's price influenced by market cycles, regulations, and macroeconomic factors. While Mao remains resolute in his belief of Bitcoin's triumph, only time will tell if his prophetic $1 million prophecy will come to fruition. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
This is kind of how it is for me. It's like I'm living on Bitcoin because because I spend the time to find people that make things that I want that will accept Bitcoin, that were already Bitcoiners. And so, yeah, like I've got a dentist, I've got a plumber, I've got tradesmen that can remodel my basement. I've got farmers that bring beef to my house. I've got all these different things and I pay them directly in Bitcoin because they were Bitcoiners first. And then we just figured out, well, why don't we just deal in Bitcoin? It's so much better. So yeah, I don't, Harry, do you want to tag in anything here?
No, I just think it's like all this stuff takes time. I think that I largely agree behaviorally with hodl that I save in Bitcoin and I try to spend in fiat. My landlord's not taking Bitcoin. And he's like, whatever, 70. So I think there's like a lot of you got to develop a useful strategy for your own household. And it's our job to create as much prosperity as possible. And so that means I try to end the week with more sats than I start the week. And I just try to extend that mindset over as large a landscape as possible.
Every investment carries risks, but with great risks come great rewards. The evolution of Bitcoin from a niche curiosity to a global financial powerhouse is a testament to its resilience and adaptability. With the winds of change blowing favorably, now might be the opportune moment to dive in. But what do you think? Share your thoughts down below. And finally, if you would like to know more about cryptocurrencies or specifically Bitcoin, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.